Valentine's Day has come and gone, but the love-themed slasher Hard Eyes is a movie that I have not stopped thinking about since I saw it. But is that for good or bad reasons, though? And is it worth seeking out if it's still playing in theaters near you, even though it is currently March? Well, stick around and I will let you know my thoughts. Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Sean Morgan, and I love movies. I especially love horror movies. And I also love Valentine's Day. I'm one of the people who actually likes Valentine's Day. I know, sue me. Anyways, so because of all of that, the new slasher Hard Eyes seemed like it would be right up my alley in terms of quality, in terms of premise. Hard Eyes is a comedy slasher film from director Josh Rubin, known best to me from his days at College Humor during the height of YouTube. The film stars Mason Gooding, who has been in many things, such as the recent Y2K. He was also in Booksmart. He's probably best known for being in the new series of Scream films, kind of a fan favorite character there. Um, Spoiler alert though, in that last Scream movie, I know we all love Mason Gooding, but his character should not have survived all of that. Anyways, Hard Eyes also stars Olivia Holt, who I really liked as Dagger in the Marvel series Cloak and Dagger. Those characters are super neat, and I'm a big comic book nerd, so I was excited to see that she was headlining this big, kind of widely released movie. I believe that she is also known to other generations for being a child star in a sitcom called Kickin' It. If I think I'm getting that right, I did some research there. I believe it's like a Disney or Nickelodeon show about karate. I didn't look into that too much because to me, she's always going to be Dagger. Maybe Cloak and Dagger will find their way back into the Marvel fold somehow, but that remains to be seen at present. Rounding out the cast of Hard Eyes, though, is Michaela Watkins, Jordana Brewster, and horror icon Devon Sawa. Hard Eyes is about a slasher villain who travels to a different city every year to murder couples on Valentine's Day. Jay, played by Mason Gooding, and Allie, played by Olivia Holt, are co-workers who stage a kiss to make Allie's ex-boyfriend jealous, and this catches the attention of the titular Heart Eyes killer, and hilarity and gore both ensue while this platonic pair are stalked by a killer who believes them to be in a committed relationship. Um, I'll just cut right to the point. I loved this movie, no pun intended. There was some concern going in that there would be too much kind of going on with the premise, right? It's a holiday themed slasher, but it's also a comedy. And then also the movie adds that, additional layer of the main couple. It's not like you're following a couple who is on a date and they get stalked. The movie adds this additional layer that the main couple who is being kind of harassed is not actually a romantic couple. They're just coworkers who actually met like less than 48 hours before they start getting, hunted. So I thought that was actually pretty fun. That might all seem like a lot of moving parts to have in the mix for a slasher that only runs around 90 minutes, but Hard Eyes really pulls it off, in my opinion. I think the movie's genuinely funny. I think that it delivers satisfying gore, and I think it also pulled off a fair amount of believable romance, too. It succeeds on all of these fronts. First, the jokes really worked for me. I loved various bits. Again, no pun intended with the usage of the word love, but I liked that Olivia Holt's character throws an adult toy, let's say, at the villain after she panics. I liked the kind of exasperation in the two leads' voices as they continually try to insist to the police and to other people that they aren't together. What even while they're being hunted down, they keep up this, insistence that like, no, we aren't together. We were kissing because we wanted to make this other person jealous. And I know that's weird. It sounds like it's from a movie. That was kind of a funny running joke throughout the film. And I liked that the reveal of the killer might have felt underwhelming had the movie not made a joke out of it. And, having the Olivia Holt character not really recognize the person behind the mask, despite having met them at least once before in the film. It was kind of I thought of the first Guardians of the Galaxy film where uh, Jimon Hansu just goes, "Who?" Like it's totally deflated, but in a way that I think it services the film and services that moment. Now, I won't spoil the identity of the killer or killers here, but that was a solid move. There was no world with the amount of setup that the movie does beforehand that would have made any sort of big character reveal as the killer satisfying, at least to me. This is not like a jaw-dropping whodunit, so to add on some humor to the reveal, I think was the right play here. This is not something like Knives Out or like Scream, where the identity of the killer finally being uh, shown to the audience is like a big deal. Like in my opinion, the things to go to Hard Eyes for are the kind of funny moments, the gory moments, not for some sort of big twist that, keeps you guessing throughout the runtime. Um, and the kills in this film also worked for me. I liked that the action here is truly just nasty in many moments. People get crushed by machinery, they get partially melted by candle wax, they get shanked by tire irons mid coitus, they get impaled by flagpoles, etc. Though this movie is funny and actually romantic in some respects, it also delivers on the bloodshed that horror fans will want out of the experience. And, I've already said this a few times, but the actual budding romance between the two lead characters also works. Gooding and Holt have a sweet chemistry, and each character has an interesting enough kind of backstory with their previous relationships. So I was genuinely rooting for the two characters to make it through and finally get to begin some sort of courtship outside of the context of being hunted down by a killer. Um, it's also worth noting that the film looks and sounds great. It's a well-made movie from a craft standpoint. The design of the Hard Eyes Killer looks great and it's super memorable, which I think for a slasher movie, you want to have a memorable look for the bad guy. That's kind of something that just like immediately is like 5 points to the quality of the score if you have a memorable design for your bad guy. Um, the action is decipherable, which, sounds like it should be obvious, but in this day and age with a lot of films, is not a given. So I liked that I could see what was going on when people were being attacked. And the sound design, when it comes to, music pumping through various needle drops, or when it comes to blood splattering or bones cracking, the sound design is really effective and it hits you really hard while you're sitting there in that audience. So I was impressed. Slasher films, particularly in the modern day, can be really hit or miss. I love a lot of trashy slasher films, don't get me wrong, but there are many slashers that are either just forgettable or lazy or don't do enough to set themselves apart from the rest of the pack, right? I think what makes this film work for me is the humor and the romance elements combined with solid performances. And, this may be sacrilegious for me to say, but this worked for me more than something like the recent slasher Terrifier 3, simply because I actually felt invested in these characters and the story that was unfolding. I like aspects of the Terrifier franchise, like the performances of the actors, I should say, in the Terrifier films is great across the board. So that's not an issue that I have. I like all of the practical effects in the Terrifier films, but the story of those movies does not compel me. And the lore, I think, is pretty boring in my opinion. And I also don't find the various attempts at humor in that series to be all that effective at making me laugh. That's just one man's opinion, and I'm sure there are people out there who would, dox me for even saying that. I know there are very devoted fans to that franchise. Please just, take that with a grain of salt. There are things I do like about the Terrifier films. That's neither here nor there, though. I saw this film with AMC A List. I saved $10.99 by doing so. And I say this not because I'm sponsored by AMC A List, but because I plan to tally my A List savings at the end of 1 year to see how much I actually saved. They just implemented a price increase with the kind of additional quote unquote perk that you can see 4 movies a week instead of 3. But it remains to be seen if people will actually be able to do that regularly enough to actually still benefit from the price increase. Um, I probably will because I go see a lot of movies, but for the average person, I'm not sure that that's the case. So that's going to be part of my experiment going into, I think, probably December. I started tracking in December. So where would Hard Eyes rank on my scale of A list, amazing, average, abysmal, or needs to be abolished? I'm feeling really good about this movie. I'm feeling generous. So because this was such a pleasant surprise and because I don't really see many modern slashers I like this much, I will be giving Hard Eyes an amazing rating. So kind of like a 4 out of 5 if you're transferring it into a numerical scale. Realistically, it's probably like a really, 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 really strong 3.5 out of 5 stars. But, I was, so pleasantly surprised by this. I don't like it quite as much as something like In a Violent Nature. I think that movie would definitely be a 4-star film just for what it does with the genre and for how creative it is. But I think you should definitely check this film out if you're a horror fan. I also think if you're a rom com fan who is not like put off by horror movies as a genre, I think you'll find a lot that you'll like in this movie as well. I think it works just as well as a rom-com. Um, provided that you are not a rom-com girly who is like definitely not a horror girly. If there's crossover there with your interests, I think this is definitely for you. So did you see Hard Eyes? Let me know what you thought of it in the comments if so, and feel free to like and or subscribe to this channel for future thoughts on movies as they come out. Until next time, do not stage kisses to make your ex jealous because you never know if a psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est, will be watching. Bye.